I literally just woke up now.
I'm sorry about that.
No, that's all right.
Uh,
Right. Yeah.
um, so I believe that everyone can hear me loud and clear. Um, Currently, we have about 9 people who have joined, and more will join as soon as they hear that we've begun.
Mm-hmm.
So um, I'm going to introduce you to the participants of this webinar.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Good evening, house. Sorry that we're starting a little bit late. This is the Surgical Interest Group of Africa, and we're a group that is interested in research, collaboration, mentorship, um, and training. Okay. This particular webinar is being organized by the Obstetrics and Gynaecology Department or team of SIGAF, that's Surgical Interest Group of Africa. And today we're going to be discussing with Dr. Um, Shola Ario, who is an O&G trainee in the United Kingdom. So he's going to be sharing with us his perspective um, on the pathways of going to the United Kingdom for a medical personnel who has an interest in obstetrics and gynecology. So I'll be handing over the mic to him, and he's going to share his own experience and how he got there, and then other ways that the possible ways for people to get O&G trained in the United Kingdom. And then, if there are any questions, we can put the questions in the chat box. And then, when he's done, he's going to respond to such questions. All right. So, over to you, Doc. Thank you so much for
Okay.
joining us this
No
evening.
worries. So, hello. Can everybody hear me? Okay. So basically, like Dr. Isaac rightly said, my name is Dr. Ario. I'm second year training obs and gyn in England, and basically, well, I moved from Nigeria 2018, and well, I started off in A&E where I was working as trust grade doctor. Trust grade means you're not is a non-training job. You're just here to provide service basically. So I did that for about 2 years. Then after then I applied for obs and gynae, and luckily for me I got it. That's about which I started 2 years ago. Obs and gynae, well, the reason why I applied for obs and gynae was, the way and the way medical school is in Nigeria and the way Nigeria medical practice is. If you're working in a private hospital, you just have to do obs and gynae related stuff, as C-section. Some people even do C-section, while in private hospital. So that already ignites that interest of O&G while I was working in private hospitals in Lagos. So that's it. I applied for it and I got it. So the process of application and how to go about it, that's the basic, the emphasis of this discussion. So for all training application in the UK, the requirement is quite similar. You need to do audits, you need to get your forms. Hello?
Yeah, we can hear
You
you,
need to do
sir.
your okay. You need to do your audit. You need to get your what we call CREST form, which is for people in Nigeria, you don't need to worry about that yet. Or when you start your job in the UK, maybe trust grade, you can get that signed. But some people apply directly from Nigeria, and they are lucky to get it. So you may need to sign your CREST form in Nigeria then. The CREST form can be downloaded from the website of whichever from the Royal College of Obs and Gynae or from the GMC website. You can download it, which just shows that you've gone through the F1, F2, Just give any consultant you work under to fill that for you. So the application process is in, I'll say, 3 stages. You apply online. That's the first stage. Then the second stage is to write an exam we called MSRA. So the exam is called MSRA, which stands for Multi-Specialist Recruitment Exams. The exam is done by people applying for GP, applying for other specialty as well, like I think psychiatry and all of that. So it's not just specific to obs and gynae. So you can write the exam and use it to apply for a whole lot of specialty. So that's what the exam is all about. Then after the exam, there will be an interview, which is, well, during COVID, they were doing it via online Teams, but now they do it face to face. So you go in, they ask you questions, and that brings me to the next stage of the interview. The questions they are going to ask you. Basically, everybody is going to almost say the same thing that day, but it's your delivery, how you deliver it, that actually matters. Are you confident with what you're saying? Even if there's nothing much to show for it, but once you say confidently, I think that's the most important thing. So they may ask you, what have you done in obs and gynae? So if you want to apply for obs and gynae, I think if you're in Nigeria or wherever you are, if there's any opportunity for you to do anything that is OB-GYN related, maybe audits, or any research, any publication. And the thing about, well, I was also a victim. The thing about we Nigerians is that we don't pay so much attention to all these things like publication, audit, and all of that. And in hindsight now, I find out that there are actually things we can do while we're still in Nigeria. We all have seen some weird and interesting cases that we just never thought of it as to write it as a case report. If I had known better then I would have reported so many cases. Maybe I'll have a lot of citation in my name now and all of that. So those are the things we need to start working on. And then teaching is another important aspect they try to look into. So if there's a way you can do teaching back whichever country you are now, try and do the teaching. And when you're teaching, try and get evidence for the teaching you've done. Maybe you can get a certificate for whichever platform you're doing the teaching from. Let them give you a certificate that you thought you were involved in teaching and all of that. Or you get a documented feedback from the group you're teaching. I think people do this Google feedback form now, which you can design and just send it to them to fill for you. You have that in your archive and you just save it, which you can use as evidence at any time to show that you've been involved in medical education, sort of. So that's about teaching. Then audits, obviously they want to see whether you understand the process of audit. Even if you've not done audits, but if you understand the process of audits, they can still give you some score there, like, oh, he's not had the opportunity to do one, but he or she understands what audit entails and is very keen on doing one. So you can always look up what audit is, read about it, and on the interview, they just tell them, this is days, I'll have loved to do one, but due to, so whatever reasons, you're not able to do one, but you're keen in doing one when the opportunity is available. So that's that about audit. Then, then your commitment to obs and gynae. Some people write their MRCOG Part 1 before the application. Well, that can help in a way to put you at an advantage that, you've written your MRCOG Part 1, you've shown your keen interest in obs and gynae, but not writing it doesn't mean you can't get the training. I've not written my MRCOG Part 1 when I wrote my, when I applied for the training. So I've not written the Part 1 and I still got the training. So it's not a limiting factor. It just gives you put you at an advantage if you've written it and give you a better score at the interview. And there are other ways to show your commitment to the specialty. Maybe if you're someone that works in the specialty at the moment, you can tell them you currently work in obs and gynae. If you've done anything obs and gynae related, you can always say, I've done this, I've done that. So those are the things that can show your commitment to the specialty. And they will ask you some general questions like research. Should everybody do research? And what do you understand by research? Things like that. They can ask you that as well, because research is a main thing in obs and gynae now. And some people feel we're just taking people out of clinical duty, and that's why we're short-staffed when people that are supposed to be providing clinical, um, you know, they are using their clinical time to do research. So you're taking them off the shop floor to do research. So some people kick against it. Some people say it's good for, advancement of knowledge, discoveries, and all of that. So you need to be able to balance your arguments and tell them why you think what is good and which is better. So that's that about the oral interview, basically. So I don't know what stage of training or where everybody is at the moment, because wherever you are now, it's going to be different. What you need to be doing now is going to be different from what someone that is in Nigeria needs to be doing. But I just gave a general overview of how the interview and how the application process usually goes. The the application process opens in November for people that will start August the following year. So you have to plan yourself if you want to, wherever you are now. If you're in the UK already, this is June, so you should be getting your application ready. If you're going to apply in this November, you should be getting everything ready, your audits, your what's it called, your teaching certificates, and all those. You should be getting them ready now for the application when it opens in August. And that's it, basically. I'm not sure if I've covered what you're expecting, but I'm sure some people will have some information about all of this already. So if you have any specific question that you want me to answer, sorry, I didn't have time to really prepare for this. I just finished night and all of that. I'll have done a proper PowerPoint where I can, maybe, I don't know if this platform allows PowerPoint presentation. So, but it's not so much to talk about, you get. But as long as you go in, if you're in the system or if you're in Nigeria, I'm sure you must have read a few things about the application process. So if you have any questions specifically that we can iron out together, talk about it together, that would be really helpful. Or if Mr. Dr. Isaac have some specific question you want me to answer, I'm more than happy to do that.
All right, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Most of the people that are um, on the group are
Mm-hmm.
are still in Nigeria, so we have a
Oh, okay. So
mix.
that makes it a more uniform audience then.
Yes, so we have a
Mm-hmm.
mix of medical students. We have a mix.
Okay.
We have medical officers. We have residents, people that have
Oh,
started their
okay.
residency in ONG.
Oh,
So,
okay.
so from what I get, you said for people in the UK, after they finish foundation year one and foundation year two, that they get a document from the consultant they worked under.
No, well, if people that attend medical school in the UK, they usually don't need that form, because
Okay.
during their F1, F2, they have an equivalent that will show that they've gone through things like that. But for we IMG, that we didn't do
Mm-hmm.
our F1 and F2 with them, definitely we need that form to show that, it's just that alternative to that we've done something that is equivalent, and we have the competency. The
In
consultant will
all.
just sign that we have the competency that is required for someone that's done F1, F2. Do you get what I mean? F1, F2 is just about similar to your housemanship here. basically. So you just need to sign that form. You can sign it while doing your housemanship if you have your consultants, or after your housemanship if you work in a private hospital. You can give it to the MD of the private hospital to sign for you. They just need to tick some boxes, and yeah, and they sign it. So all these things I've been saying are for people that are applying, because there are two application points for OBS and gynae training. There's there is a point that everybody starts at the level of ST1, which is the first year. There's another point that you start at the third year, which is called ST3. The people that usually start at the third year are people that have been maybe consultants back in Nigeria, home country. Like, we've got a lot of people from Nigeria that have, started from that third year. They'll just start straight up as registrar. So some people do that, and the application for starting directly at register level is much more competitive than the one for ST1, because imagine people from Egypt, people from India, those people they already have, because for that you need to have publications, you need to have done some researches, you need to have done some international presentations at international conferences. So that's much more competitive than starting application for the ST1. So for people doing residency in Nigeria already that are thinking of coming to the UK and starting off their training, depends on what level of training you are at the moment. For people that are consultants, a lot of senior registrars have come into the UK even without writing PLAB. They just do all this IMT, is it MTI, which is like, is an initiative between GMC, RCOG. RCOG is the Royal College of Obs and Gynae. So they come together and they sponsor people from whichever country they are coming from. So those people come into the UK usually for 2 years, but after the 2 years, most people don't go back to their home country. The purpose of the platform, the MTI, is for people to acquire knowledge within 2 years and go back to their country, but most people don't go back. They just start working in the UK, gather experience, and gather all their competencies. Competencies means you need to do some instrumental delivery, you need to do, C-section, you need to do some manual removal of placenta, you need to have it documented. At that point, you definitely have your portfolio, which is the RCOG portfolio. It's just an application basically that track everything you've been doing. For example, if you do a procedure with a consultant, you can send that procedure to the consultant to sign, and that will be in your portfolio to show that you can do that on your own. Because if you're applying from that ST3 level, you're a registrar, and as a registrar, there are some expectations that people, want from you. So you should be able to do all those things, which, to be honest, most times, most of our senior registrars that come from Nigeria, they're actually very good at all those things. The only thing that most times that they struggle with is instrumental delivery, which is because sometimes they don't do it in teaching hospitals in Nigeria. But other things, they are usually, and by the time they get that instrumental delivery, people know them that they're actually, because they've got more of hands-on skills, they are always better with their hands-on skills and all of that. So I would say it's quite very straightforward for them, but it's quite competitive as well. Applying from ST3 level, I've got a few colleagues that have done it and they're already, ST3. And the good thing for them as well is that by the time they join at that ST3, the following year after ST3, they can actually progress to, instead of progressing just 1 year ahead after ST3, sometimes they skip some years for them if they know that this person is quite experienced and they've got evidence on their portfolio to skip years. So for people that are consultants in Nigeria that are thinking, oh, is it going to be a long work for me again to start afresh and all of that, sometimes the years you can spend if you get into training and consultant can be as short as 3 years, because they can skip a lot of years for you, considering the fact that you've got the experience and you've got all your requirements signed. So that's that about people coming in from ST3. So number one is quite competitive, but it's not impossible. Number two, for the you can start getting some evidence right now. A lot of our registrars teach medical students, but I don't think they get evidence for it to show that they teach. So you can just get some evidence from them. You can do a Google form. You can give them paper form as well and just scan it and keep it in your iCloud or something for whenever you need it. So whatever we do, is very important we get evidence, because sometimes word of mouth will not be enough to say I've done this, I've done that. So having a documented evidence will go a long way. And I find that these things are actually things we do in Nigeria, but we don't just document them somewhere. And you can also look around, do audits, look at something that needs improvement in your hospital and do it as quality improvement projects. So those are the things we can do, which, I think they should be straightforward. But because while we're in Nigeria, we didn't get so much information about them. We weren't really informed. And information is key. It's all about getting information and working on them, know what we want, and just go for it. So that's that for people coming in from ST3 level. If there's any question from that angle, from that point, then we can note it down and ask me maybe at the end or while we go along. Now, let's go back to the ST1, which I came in through. Obviously, I did PLAB, got in the UK through the PLAB route. Then, like I said earlier, I applied for the training, and I said earlier that it has 3 stages. You do your online application, which usually opens up in November. Secondly, you do your MRSA, which is a multi-specialist recruitment assessment exam. You do that, then go for the oral interview. And at the end of the day, if you're successful, you'll be shortlisted, and that'll be it. For people that are in medical school at the moment, what I think we can be doing now, I'm not sure. There's something they call intercalated program, whereby you go out of the year to do masters or or BSc rather. They give you 1 year gap. Hello, Isaac. Hello. Hello.
Yeah, wait, sorry.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
We can hear you, sir. We can hear you,
Oh,
sir.
okay. You
Go
went
ahead.
frozen,
Yes.
so I thought maybe
Sorry.
something.
Sorry.
Yeah, maybe I lost
Now,
connection.
yes.
So for medical students, I think what they can be doing now as a medical student is one thing that if I can rewind the time, is my project that I did when I was doing my community health. I should have put more effort to it and do a very interesting project that will be more obs and gynae related and something that I can actually publish. We'll, as a medical student, obviously, will be in a tertiary hospital. You can do something as simple as knowledge, attitude, and perception of women attending a tertiary institution in Nigeria about intrauterine contraception or oral contraception. Just do it like something that is obs and gynae related, or the quality of antenatal service in a tertiary hospital, or the routine practice of antenatal clinic in a tertiary hospital in Nigeria. Something, look at that, something obs and gynae related, and try and do it in a way that you can publish it, that's publishable. Get someone that is into research in the teaching hospital you are, and let them know what you want to do. Do it properly, get the research committee involved, and yeah, it's a very good opportunity to get a publishable evidence as a medical student. And also as a medical student, all these leadership thing we do, like president of medical student association, all of that thing, try and do it and get a certificate for it, because you don't know when you're going to need it. sometimes they will ask you what are the leadership skills you've done, what are the leadership activities you've done in the past, and how can you show evidence for it. If you've been a general secretary or whatever you've been in the medical student association, or even in your in any organization that you've been into, try and get a certificate for it, and that can also boost your score in the interview. And as a medical student, I'm just thinking about things we could be doing that making our application for the training a lot easier and improve our chances of survival. Yeah, anything you're doing, just make sure you can get evidence for it. If you're teaching your junior colleague, like maybe your final year, and you're teaching people in 400 level, you can give them feedback form just to feel for you, and just keep it as evidence of teaching, and things like that. Yeah, so that's that as medical student. If you have opportunity to go to international conferences as well to present whichever work you've done, go present it, and yeah, and get certificate of presentation, because like I've always laid so much emphasis on evidence. Evidence is very important, because here a lot of they rely largely on evidence. Sometimes word of mouth may not be enough. You need to have evidence for whatever you're doing, which is what I'll say. And yeah, if there's any question anyone wants to ask me, I'm not sure how this works, whether they'll type it in the comment section or you can shout out.
Yes, they can type it. They can type it in the chat box.
Yeah, or if you want to shout out, you can shout out if possible. And yeah, let's go to people that are already medical officers now that are planning to come to ONG to do obs and gynae. Yeah, one important thing I need to mention is that if you're applying for the first year entry, for the ST1 entry, one of the disqualifying criteria is that you must not have more than 24-month experience in obs and gynae. So if you're already working in obs and gynae, you shouldn't have more than 24 months of experience in obs and gynae. Once you have more than that, you are no more eligible to apply from ST1. So whichever way you're going to do it, whether I know a lot of us, I don't know how it works, but a lot of us work in private hospitals. So that also doing obs and gynae in that private hospital doesn't count as entire 2 years, because you are not doing solely obs and gynae, you're doing all sorts. But if you are in specific training in Nigeria and you have got more than 24-month experience in that training, you can't apply for ST1 anymore. You have to apply from ST3 and above. So that's very important for some of us, that people that are still interested in applying from ST1, which is the first year. Yeah. So I think I've given just a little summary about what the application is all about. I don't think it's important to go into how the training is at this moment, because I think the talk is mainly to talk
And
about
how
the
to.
application process. So
Okay.
if you have any question regarding that, let me know. Isaac, you want to say something?
All right. Yes. Thank you so much. Just for clarity purposes, the process definitely to enter into the UK, you go through your PLAB, the PLAB route,
Yeah, PLAB
yeah,
or MTI.
or MTI. You said the MTI is for consultants, or
For consultants, junior registrars, and senior registrars. So people that have got
okay. So
people that are in training basically, and I think they've got
okay,
there's a certain limit that you must have had 2 years, more than 2 to 3 years of experience in your training before you can come in through
okay,
MTI.
through MTI. So either through the PLAB or the MTI, you get into the UK.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so someone that gets in through that route is at FY2, isn't it?
No, if you come through PLAB, if you come through
Yes.
PLAB, a lot of people come through PLAB and they don't work in obs and gyne first. For example, when I came in through PLAB, my first job in the UK was accident and emergency, because at that point we're just like anything that comes our way. We just want to leave Nigeria.
Okay.
So the first job I got was accident and emergency. So while doing the accident and emergency, or whichever specialty anybody gets, you can, and you're still interested in obs and gynae, while doing your whichever specialty you're doing, you can do your audit, do your teaching, try and get your evidence as you're working in that whichever department you're working. And when it's time to apply for obs and gynae, do your application. If you have time to write your MRCOG part 1 while working in that whichever specialty you are working, you can apply and write your part 1. That will put you at an edge during the application process. Yeah. So that's it. You can work in most times when people come in from Nigeria, they work from at the level of FY2. But when I came in, I started with CT1, like first year training equivalent in A&E. Although it's a non-training job, but they still call it like ST1, which is first year training of A&E.
Okay.
So you can start in any department of that you get, because sometimes you can't choose this thing. It just depends on what job we get. Start in any department, build your CV while working in the department, build your portfolio. If the department is involved in any QIP, try and speak to the lead, maybe your consultant, or you want to do audit, you want to do QIP, means quality improvement projects. And a lot of quality improvement projects we can do. For example, if you see that, this thing they are doing in this department, there's a way I can change it to make it better. You can approach your consultants and use it as a QIP. That's quality improvement project. So those are the things you can do that will boost your chances of, in the application process. I hope that answers your question, Isaac.
Yes, it does.
Any further question?
Yes, there's a question on the in the chat box. It is from Dr. Lawale Onosonya. It says, "What pros and cons does starting an FY2/CT1 in ONG give to your application?"
Wow, that's if you're really interested in obs and gynae, if you're still in Nigeria, and it's a two-way thing. Number one is advantage is that by the time you finish, make sure the most important thing is make sure you don't have more than 24-month experience. If you're going to apply at the level of, if you're going to start at level of ST1, make sure you don't have more than 24-month experience. So if you're working in FY2 or CT1 in O and G in the UK, that will give you advantage during the interview, that you show your commitment to obs and gynae by the fact that you're currently working in obs and gynae. And secondly, that will also give you an idea of how the department is. I've seen a lot of people that were interested in applying in doing obs and gynae, but by the time they work in obs and gynae as CT1 and FY2, and they see how the job is, they just decide that, what, this is not for me. I'm leaving. I'm not doing it anymore. I'm going to GP. So that can give you an overview of how the department is before you go into training. And training, your first few months, people will make an impression about you, and that's going to go a long way. Imagine as an ST1, you already know how to do C-section, you already know how to do instrumental delivery, which you must have learned during your FY2 and the CT2 job in O&G. So it's actually going to give you a very huge starting point when you start your training, and also it will give you an edge when you're applying for your application. Because while working in O&G, you already know how the system works, how their O&G department works. So whichever question they are going to be asking you at the interview, it will also help you to be able to give the kind of answer they want. So it will help you in the interview. The summary is that It will help you in the interview, and it will also help you when you actually start your training. It will help you a lot because you will have understand the system, you'll have understand how they do their things, you'll have understand a lot of things about the O&G itself. In fact, as a matter of fact, even our consultant and senior registrars that they come from Nigeria through the MTI, they actually start them at the level of FY2 CT1 as well. Because even though they have the knowledge, they have the skills, because they are coming to a new system, starting at the registrar level will be a bit of challenge to them. So they usually start them at the, we call them SHOs, senior house officer, which is CT1 and FY2. So they start them at that level so that they can get used to the system. And after a year, they will then promote them to the registrar level, which is, understandable. At least they need to get used to the system, even though they have all the skills and knowledge involved. So yeah, that's it. It's going to give you, it's going to give a very huge advantage and edge starting obs and gynae before going into training. But that being said, everybody wants to leave Nigeria. Whichever jobs comes our way, we just want to get it. Go for it, but try as much as possible to make it an NHS job. Having an NHS job will help you to understand how NHS works, so that when you start the training, because when you start training, people don't want to understand that you are new in the UK. There's some level of expectation, whether you're starting at ST1 or ST3. There's some expectation required from you. So our advice, even if you don't start from in O&G, start from any department in NHS. That's very, very important. Then there are some other questions. What specific advantage does writing MRCOG Part 1 in Nigeria give? I ask because I realize many of my SRs here attempt it. Yes. One of the criteria for coming to do the MTI that I mentioned earlier is that you must have written the MRCOG Part 1. That's one of the criteria. I think that's why a lot of SRs are writing it. So to come through the MTI, because I understand most of our senior registrars, they have families, they have commitments, they have, they cannot start sitting down going through the whole plab route, which is sometimes can be very demanding. Not that they don't have the knowledge required, but there's a lot of commitment. They don't have that time to start sitting down and start, doing all those biochemistry, anatomy, and all of that anymore. So going through MTI waive the plab route for them. So they just come through MTI. But the only disadvantage of coming through MTI is that throughout your stay in the UK, you can only work in obs and gynae because you came in through MTI. But if you come in through plab 1, if you're not interested in obs and gynae again, you can go and work in A&E. You can work in medicine. You can do anything you want. So, but I think a lot of them still find a way to, if sometimes they are not interested in obs and gynae again, they can just go to GP and things like that. But MTI is a very good pathway as well. And also, if you're applying through ST1, writing your MRCOG Part 1 gives you an edge because that will show that you are really committed to the specialty. One of the things they want to see during the interview is if you're applying through ST1, is to see your commitment to the to the specialty. And if you've passed your MRCOG Part 1, that's a huge sign that you're really committed to the specialty. If you've not written it, that doesn't mean you will not get it. I've not written it when I applied, and I still got the training. So yeah, that's about the MRCOG Part 1 question. Have you got any other question written up, Isaac?
Not yet. Okay, thank you so much for the the time and the effort, like Dr. Keynes has said.
Mm.
Um, just to do a recap, you divided it into, you said there are things that medical students you encourage them to do.
Mm-hmm.
If they can do an intercalated, if their school allows it, that
Yeah.
um, do a master's in something O&G related. So what do you mean
Mm-hmm.
by what specific programs do you think give advantages?
Not necessarily O&G related, because one thing I've
Okay.
noticed is in whichever one of the things they ask in whichever department you're applying to, they'll ask that have you done a master's. If you've done masters, they give score for that. If you've done this intercalated program that medical school does now, that you can just take 1 year off and they'll give you BSc in physiology or BSc in whichever department, or sometimes if you have BSc before starting medicine, that will also give you some score. But it doesn't say it is entirely necessary. It's just you can always get some scores in other places which will eventually add up, but that will just put you at an edge. And the BSc, the intercalated BSc or your master doesn't have to be O&G related. It will be an advantage if it's something that's Obs and Gynae related, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. That's about the BSc part
All right.
and the master's part of the application.
Okay. So so basically, if you can get a if people that can have a master's, it doesn't matter if the master's is from Nigeria, isn't it?
That shouldn't be a problem. That shouldn't be a problem.
Okay. All right. So a question was a question that someone has is that if someone works hospital for more than 24 months doing OBGYN, that can the person directly apply for ST3 since he no longer qualifies for ST1?
Yes, you can. You mean while in the UK or in Nigeria?
Yes. In Nigeria,
Uh, that's a bit tricky because if it's a training post,
like a
if it's a
residency.
training post, yeah, like a residency, applying directly from Nigeria, I'm not sure how it works. Most people that I know that got the ST3 apply while they're in the UK. They come in through MTI, do MTI for a year or two, then they apply to go in through ST3. And most times, most of them are SR, newly qualified consultants, or even consultants, in their respective countries. So I've not heard of someone that applied from Nigeria directly without any prior UK experience. I've not really heard of that. That being said, it doesn't mean that it's not impossible. You know, that doesn't mean that it's impossible. But I've not just seen. I've not seen anyone that's done that.
All right. Um, are there any more questions?
Someone just asked now that how long does the training last from ST1? So basically, from ST1, you get to go to ST7. So it's ST1, ST2, ST3, ST4, ST5, ST6, and ST7. So that makes it 7 years. That's the basic training. You get your certificate of completion of training, and you're good to go. There are other people that spend more than 7 years, like maybe 10 years. For example, people that want to do research, go into subspecialist training. That's another thing entirely. I don't think I should bother people with that already because it's a bit complex and into more details. But the basic training that everybody can do is 7 years. Then after that, you're a consultant. But if you want to now go further, maybe you want to be specifically be doing only a certain part of the obs and gynae. For example, if you want to be doing just gynae oncology, you want to be doing just infertility, you need to go into another type of training, which takes another 3 years. But that's a lot of people don't do that because what's the essence? A lot of us want to do a bit of everything and not just focus on just one aspect. So because at the end of the day, this UK doesn't really encourage a lot of that because at the end of the day, everybody's earning the same amount. So why should I go into that and spend 10 years studying, So that, but if you're really passionate about it, then that's another discussion which I don't think I should go into now. Go into training first, then as you go along, you make your mind up what you want to do.
All right. Also, I want to ask because there's a lot of belief in over here that getting into such specialties is usually very hard. Like as an international student, that getting into or as an international graduate, getting into core specialties like O&G surgery and rest, that is quite hard. So, is it extremely competitive for let's say Nigerians to get into O&G training? How you assess it? Are lots of Nigerians getting into the training, or is just a few people out of the percentage that apply? That's true ST1, not
Okay.
ST2. Yeah, true ST1. Do a good percentage of Nigerians that apply get into the training?
Well, what I would say is obviously any department you are going getting into is competitive because a lot of people are applying more than the job available. I think it's getting yourself prepared and getting yourself ready. I have a lot of Nigerians that are into the training, and they got into ST1. So that shows that it is very achievable. Secondly, I won't say it's the ratio is like 3 to 1. Anytime, for example, there will be like 500 jobs and 1,500 people will apply. Sometimes 2,000 people. So it's like 3 to 4 in one. So it's not entirely. I don't know how to put it on a scale of being competitive. What I'll say is it's doable if you get all the things required. It's very very doable. I hope that answers the question because I can't really give a specific scale based on. I think it's the ratio that will do the best judgment to it. It's about 3 to 4 in one, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
it.
All right. So any more questions? Let me see. Okay, I don't think there are more questions. All right. So in the absence of questions, we would like to thank you so much for sparing the
No
time
worries.
to speak with us today. Um, um, Based on the feedback, okay, based on the feedback, we will see if we can schedule a another. Okay, sorry, it's like we have a new message. Okay, someone says thank you. All right. Um, so based on the response essays, we'll find out if we need to figure to get another session together. But it has been
Yeah,
really,
maybe
really
people can. Yeah, before then, people can do their research, and if they have specific questions, you can always answer them. But yeah, anytime, just let me know. Even if it's just 30 minutes, we can always talk about it. Catch up, see what people are doing, and take it from there.
yeah. So concern you said medical students, it will be good for them to do research. In fact, not just medical students, anybody that's applying,
Anybody,
yeah,
research,
research
audits.
audits, yeah,
If you have any
and case
quality
case
improvement project,
reports.
case report should be the one of the things that is quite easy because we see a lot of weird cases in Nigeria. But it's just
Yeah,
that we don't have that information that we can actually do a case
report.
report and publish these things. Also, even sometimes case series. If you have cases that look alike and you have 3, 4 of them, you can publish them together as a case series in journals. And yeah, before you know, you put that forward as publication when during your interview, and people at the panel will be really impressed.
So,
And it doesn't have to be just only you. You can team up with other people, and your name will be on it.
that
So
that's actually wonderful. Here at SIGAF, um, we conduct research, and the participants here that are our members, we are already working on research topics to publish. So, um,
yeah,
hopefully,
that's really
we'll add some case reports um, to our publications very soon. And we actually had a similar webinar some weeks back on how to do clinical audits. So,
oh nice. That's really impressive. I really wish I had this kind of platform when I was in Nigeria. I because we had a lot of time as medical students, but we're just playing around and all of that. So it's really impressive. At least people are who it's a good thing that the world is a global village now. Everybody knows what is obtainable in other part of the world, and how we can what we can do to give us ourselves a competitive edge to compete with all those people from other part of the world. And if you start doing it, the earlier the better. Even if we are not doing it now, but understanding the process now, and by the time we get to to whichever country we're going to, it will just jumpstart us into doing all of those things. Yeah, nice, well done.
yes,
Thank you for
thank you very
your
much.
thoughts.
Yes. So please, for the participants, there's a feedback form in the group chat. So please just take a moment to fill it out to let us know how the session went, and it will help us prepare better for other sessions. So, once again, we thank you, Dr. Olushola, for gracing our uh, our platform today. Thank you so much.
Anytime, brother.
We
Anytime.
appreciate it.